see the comment on the previous video that the short guy's got a grump on or something?
No.
Like I wasn't smart. I was having a bad day or something. The short guy's got a grump on. You motherfuckers.
Getting cocky now, aren't they? You know, it's really no secret that many of 2016's biggest games sold like shite. It was a disappointing end of the year for the games market, with traditionally big-hitting releases like Call of Duty, Watch Dogs and Titanfall selling horribly, at least compared to their previous entries. Well, now we know exactly how bad it actually was for the games industry, at least here in the UK.
The money generated from physical software sales, that's traditional boxed games on a disc, is down a whopping 34% compared with 2015. Video games made 170.8 million for the December sales period, traditionally the busiest period in any given year, according to data company GfK and reported by MCV. That's down from 257.6 million in 2015. Make no mistake, a drop that big, which is a third of total video games revenue, is unbelievable.
The total number of actual video games sold was also down year on year by roughly the same percentage. So 5.8 million games were sold in the December period compared to 8.3 million in 2015. So why the hell have people been buying far fewer games recently? Well, if you look carefully at GfK's data, you can see that it recorded 6 weeks of sales in 2015 compared with just 5 in 2016. But that certainly does not account for a full 34% drop in revenue or 31% drop in actual sales numbers. The main thing behind this sharp decline, of course, has to be those disappointing sales figures for the year's biggest AAA titles. They drive most of the sales in the industry, and the December sales period is when sales of these big blockbuster franchises are obviously at their strongest. So when the biggest games don't sell well during the busiest period of the year, well, you have to wonder why.
There are many factors to consider, and we've gone into this several times over the last few months when looking at specific examples of poorly performing games like Watch Dogs 2. But what are the biggest overarching issues? Well, for us, the biggest and most pressing is the major drop in consumer confidence. This autumn-winter period was torpedoed by two of the first major releases to arrive in the pre-Christmas window. Two games that got in early before the rest of the AAA crowd and pissed all over the punch bowl.
First came No Man's Sky, a game so catastrophically disappointing it led to an ASA investigation and a general feeling of fury and shell shock among the gaming community who bought into Sean Murray and his lies. We've thoroughly dissected No Man's Sky's rotting corpse in the past, but the short version is this. It was a classic case of hype and flop. We were promised the best game ever, exploring an infinite and fascinating universe full of things to do, and even the possibility of exploring it with others. What we got turned out to barely even be a game at all, and it shattered consumer confidence among the PC and PS4 communities.
I thought you were going to say shat. And it shat all over us consumers.
That too. Then came Mafia 3, a lesser case with much smaller hype and significantly less disappointment because it was at least a game, something No Man's Sky would find hard to claim at launch. But Mafia 3 was nonetheless disappointing, and many were excited for it. It was repetitive, it was sorely lacking in polish, and it was yet another game in a very short space of time to leave many consumers disappointed.
Obviously, we're not saying that the AAA sales slump is all Mafia 3 and No Man's Sky's fault, but they definitely were one of the many straws that broke the camel's back. Consumer confidence is at a very low level at the moment in general. The pre-order hype and marketing culture that stinks up the industry is starting to cannibalize the market that it's trying so hard to exploit. 2016 was the year that Bethesda announced boldly, without flinching, that it would no longer give out review copies to journalists before launch. Why? Because they want everyone to experience the game at the same time. F off. It's because they know they can get away with it. Bethesda have a strong and loyal fan base, and they know, or at least think they know, people will buy their games en masse, blind, without reading a review first. They tried out the policy with Doom, refusing to let reviewers have copies before launch, and people bought that game in their droves, and yes, it was awesome.
But the company got bitten on the arse late this year when Dishonored 2 sold almost 40% fewer copies than the original at launch. It was one of the big AAA titles to sell really badly in 2016, and with good reason. People couldn't see reviews of the game before launch thanks to Bethesda's ridiculous anti-consumer policy, and they just didn't buy it. The game's terrible performance on PC was quickly highlighted online, and it suddenly looked apparent, to us at least, that this is what Bethesda's policy is all about. Protecting its marketing budgets, which can easily and rapidly be undermined by the effect of negative reviews.
I've played that over Christmas and I've had enough time to patch it. And NPCs, I mean, when they're running into walls, saying, I'm gonna find you, like, and literally, like, this guy was in an arch, yeah, and his head was getting caught in an arch, trying to run through. I'm gonna get that girl or whatever. Yeah. And there was 3 guys stuck in a bush looking for me, and I was 1 meter behind the bush, and I could see them, and they still can't see me. That is a blatant, complete and utter failure. That's even now. You know what I mean? Yeah. If the point is that if people would have had a chance to review this game before launch, they would have outed them as being completely broken, which is what it is. And it still is now, like even months or over a month after it's been released. They've had a chance to patch it, fix it, but they haven't.
This is no question, it's Bethesda protecting themselves from opinions like what you've just expressed. That would be all over the internet if reviews went out, and they just don't want that. They don't have to do it, but there's no question that it hurts us as consumers. Bethesda doesn't want you to know that its games don't run properly because it spent millions on persuading you to buy those games. And that's where the real crux of this problem is. People are buying less games because they're less certain about which games are worth their money. And companies are not helping us in that regard at all. We've only got so much money to spend, and many of us are poorer now than we have been in a few years. When companies like Bethesda, Sony, and whoever the fuck published Mafia 3 spend so much time hyping their products, which they've every right to do, but they do it while keeping us as uninformed as possible about the actual facts. Our confidence is bound to erode over time.
There are so many games and so many businesses vying for your money, it's difficult to know where to put your cash. And it doesn't stop at the £40 or $60 purchase now. That only gets you the standard edition these days. They make it sound as off-putting as possible, so you buy the Super Deluxe Bonerific Edition for $140, which comes with a season pass and shitty plastic statue. They want you pouring in as much money as possible into each game, and they want to keep you hooked for as long as possible afterwards, so you buy microtransactions on top of everything you've already bought. We've gone into pre-order culture and special edition season pass bullshit before, but I mean, it's all part of this really unhealthy picture that you get out of the games industry these days. It's not in a good place.
There's just so much to consider here. I mean, sales are down, that's a fact, we know that, but there's so many possible reasons for that it all starts looking quite worrying when you take a step back. We still have to say that we think it's consumer confidence that's the real problem. We're getting shafted in so many new and creative ways now that it's no surprise that we're all starting to shy away a little bit from all the hype and be a bit more skeptical about what we see and read. We're being exploited rather than catered to. And a lot of that is our own fault. I mean, just being excited for a video game makes us susceptible to being exploited by these companies who are trying to sell them to us. But there's just no doubt that companies are finally starting to pay for all the bullshit they've been hitting us with for years now.
So what do you guys think is the main reason behind the drop in sales year on year? Let us know down in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here, check out some more of our content around about here on your screen, and we will see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.